gentlemen, good evening and salam and shalom. Let me start by offering my thanks to Vivian for hosting this wonderful event and for the opportunity to speak. And I also want to thank Feaz Mughal of Faith Matters and Esmond Rosen, who've been hugely instrumental in pulling together the exhibition that we're seeing today. Occasions like this give us the chance to remember that in history's darkest moment there were flickers of light, and that even under a regime of hatred, division and otherness, instances of humanity, compassion and togetherness were able to flourish. Little is known of the courageous efforts by many people of the Muslim faith during the dark period of the Holocaust. This exhibition, like the Missing Pages campaign, sets out to bring that bravery to light. And indeed, there is something that everyone can learn from the stories of the righteous Muslims. For when they saw Jews being persecuted, they saw not the other, but they saw their brother. And they put their commitment to their fellow man and to humanity above their own safety. And as the chief rabbi so eloquently put it, from the courage of the past can come the inspiration that will lead us all, Muslims and Jews together, to honor life and faith and God, drawing strength from one another as we seek to build a world both holy and humane. Indeed, I believe that the spirit of these past experiences of our long history of coexistence can be and should be kept alive today. Because today, so often the challenges that we face are so very similar. And I know that in recent years, when I've become more and more concerned about the rising tide of anti-Muslim sentiment, I've valued my discussion with people like the Board of Deputies, with Gerald Ronson and with others, and the ongoing guidance and support from the British Jewish community on how to tackle this issue. The British Jewish community, sadly, have had a long history of fighting far-right extremism, and I'm grateful for the support that they've given to members of the Muslim communities, including helping support and guide what has now become the Tell Mama program. That spirit of reaching out to help and to support, to protect and to preserve, shone through once again when earlier this year a Bradford synagogue was under threat, and it was local Muslim residents who stepped in to help. There are numerous examples of collaborative working, of everyday support, and of deep friendships blooming from working together. And my own 2.5 years as party co-chairman working alongside Andrew Feltman, each day we learned how much we had in common. And it would be so easy today for me to speak about this only and walk away. But I believe our job as politicians is not just to celebrate the good, but also to challenge the things where things can be made better. So today I want to touch upon an issue which I want both British Muslim and British Jewish communities to help address and to start to resolve. It's an area which is sensitive and difficult, and I hope therefore that I've chosen my words wisely. And this is the issue of anti-Semitism within Muslim communities and anti-Muslim sentiment in Jewish communities. These issues are best dealt with, not through denial, but with frank, honest conversations, and something in which I know that both Jews and Muslims like to excel. Someone once said to me that if you point a finger at someone, there are 3 pointing right back at you. So let me talk about 3 concerns which I have about the community that I come from, before I talk about the concern that I have about another community. So let me first look at anti-Semitism within Muslim communities. I'm concerned about the occasions where loose talk and glib conspiracy theories feed a narrative which plays into extreme stereotypes. For me, too often, we see the Jewish community being the butt of a blame game, with all sorts of weird, wacky and wonderful motives ascribed to them. They very often seem absurd, archaic. But as we all know, it's when these prejudices take root that they create the conditions for something much worse. This is not an easy subject to tackle, and I know that the political editor of the Huffington Post, Mehdi Hassan, has received criticism for raising it only weeks ago. But like him, I too want to be clear that it needs to be rooted out before it passes through the generations. My second point is this: the success of the Jewish community, whether it is economic, social, or political, their achievements are something that we must celebrate and not see as a threat at the expense of others' success. It should not be felt that somehow the successes of one community will stop another community getting on. It is not an either-or. So British Muslim communities should celebrate, and I would go as far as saying indeed emulate, the success of British Jews. Thirdly, I want to briefly touch upon foreign policy. Now, there will always be different views on foreign policy. Indeed, you may be surprised to hear that even within the Foreign Office as ministers, we will debate and have differences of opinions on global issues. And I do not accept that criticism of the politics of the Middle East, or indeed of the politics of the State of Israel, is automatically equal to criticism of Jews or the Jewish faith. To say so would be as absurd as saying that any criticism of the politics of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan was anti-Muslim or anti-Islamic. But I am aware that anti-Israeli sentiment can sometimes be a cover for antisemitism, where people try to justify their intolerance through political discourse. Opposition to international acts should never be directed onto ordinary people simply because of their faith. And as the Community Security Trust will tell you, anti-Semitic attacks spike in the United Kingdom when there is increased unrest in the Middle East. So the message must go out: none of us will accept foreign policy being used as an excuse to target individuals or indeed their faith. Let me now turn to anti-Muslim sentiment in Jewish communities. Sadly, there will always be those who use the underlying simmering resentment from the Middle East to play out their own political agendas. We've seen in Britain and across Europe how extreme right-wing movements have attempted to align themselves with the Jewish community, with the Jewish faith, and with Israel. And I know that, like me, the British Jewish community is disgusted by the use of the Israeli flag at English Defence League rallies. There is a real sick irony in the EDL's approach, that the ideological descendants of those who persecuted Jews in the previous century are today using the Israeli flag to bolster their campaign of hate. Part of the same worrying development is a view by some extremists, predominantly in the US, that my enemy's enemy is my friend. So as today I've made 3 asks of the British Muslim community, I make 1 ask of my friends, the British Jewish community. We need to be robust when extremists hijack our faith and our symbols, to stand up and state even more clearly, not in my name, and not in the name of my faith. Ultimately, this is about standing together on the issues of today. After all, and I have said this on many occasions, an attack on one faith is an attack on all faiths. And history teaches us that if they come for our neighbour, there's no use us feeling safe, because they'll be coming for us next. So let's stand together in our fight against the intolerance that is directed at our communities. But let's also stand together in our frankness about the intolerance that exists within our communities. Let's be as robust about defending a threat to another's faith as we are about defending a threat to our own. And let's be inspired by the brave actions of our forefathers, whose courage we come here to mark today. Because the best tribute to their memory is for us to show the humanity and compassion that has earned them the title righteous. Thank you very much.